or so. So good to have you here in Tamuning. Hope you got to work safely, because man, it's still raining out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but from the Philippines, Lawrence Sabayan is joining us. He is the AVP and division head for relations and product management. So Lawrence, very good to have you here. We're glad to have you on the
Hello,
show.
Jason. Happy day, everybody.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the medical city and the services you provide the local community. How you can reach out to your fellow kababayans on Guam and everything. But can we get maybe an overall update on what the status is? What is the current situation in the Philippines right now?
Well, it's pretty much the same, although quite recently because of the new variant, the Delta variant, there's some spike. So the cases are increasing
Mm-hmm.
lately, but everything's under control. The government is implementing stricter restrictions and quarantine measures for the next week, for the next couple of weeks. So that is to curb the increasing cases, particularly driven by the Delta variant. But everything's pretty much under control. So there will be some things that will be implemented, but as per our discussion with the Department of Health, the traveling of patients from other countries will still be allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So that should not be affected.
Okay. We've talked on this show before about about vaccination. Like on Guam, obviously in the Philippines because of the scale and scope and just the sheer number of uh, you know, millions and millions of people that need it and everything like that. We've talked like in the past about what the plan was and everything like that. How do you see it right now as far as how vaccines have been rolled out in the Philippines, and what can we expect maybe in the next few months?
Well, it's still we're still continuously rolling that out. There are about 20 million Filipinos that have already been vaccinated, but of course we're quite a big country, so that's just 9% of
Mm-hmm.
the total population. And we are still waiting. I think the major bottleneck is the arrival of the vaccines here in the Philippines. But as time goes, we are seeing a lot more of the vaccines coming in. So we're hoping that the rollout will be going on faster.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Raquel, I can fold you into this next question because the medical city, by your nature, you guys were one of the first ones to say we stand ready, we're ready to go. Our staff is trained well. We're obviously aware of what's going on, but these things change day to day and everything like that. Um, what's the operational tempo that you're having right now, and kind of like the attitude and the motivation of your team?
um, well, I'm the one who manage everything here in Guam, and then I process everything for the patient, and then send it to my team. We do coordinate everything from time to time. All the changes, all the new news that there's a new advisory changes for flying to Philippines. We send it to everyone of our team so that they all know what's going on in the Philippines. Because it changes from time to time. Like we have a new changes this time, and then later on again there's a new changes.
Mm-hmm.
So we need really to check the website of the Philippines, the Department of Health, the tourism. So what's the new advisory, and we need to provide it to my team so that if we have new patients, we can coordinate that as well to our patients accordingly.
Okay. Now, because you do referrals and because you're on Guam, um, maybe a two-part question now. It's like one, do you accept international patients if they need that treatment? And do Guam patients are we considered international? I mean, Filipino culture is so ingrained like in Guam, and like it's such a part of like our island family. Can we be considered local?
Well, we actually look the same. Every time I go there, I can't recognize. So it's been quite a while, so I miss going there already. But yes, we are actually accepting patients, both international and Filipinos. So Guam patients including, and the rest of the Pacific Islands. Even at the height of the pandemic, Raquel has been patiently coordinating with the offices there in Guam and here in the Philippines for us to be able to assist the patients to come here in the Philippines, for them to get the medical care that they need. So and as time goes by, we have learned a lot. It wasn't like anymore like walking on eggshells, because you don't know what's gonna happen and all that. So we have learned a lot. We have gained experience, and now it's almost very smooth sailing because we are just really following the international standards and all the guidelines that were provided by the government. So yes, we are accepting patients, Guam patients at that, the Pacific Islands patients, and even so the Philippine patients. It's the only difference is that I would say that it's easier for the Filipinos abroad to come back to the Philippines for their medical care. By easy, I would say it takes less time. But for international patients, it takes a little longer because it goes through a lot of the government offices from the Department of Health until the Department of Foreign Affairs and Raquel. And we'd like to thank the consular office in Guam, consular office of the Philippines in Guam for because we've been working with them closely for us to be able to provide this service to our patients.
Yeah, it was so heartbreaking last year because for so many months, I mean, it seemed like forever, but there were so many Filipinos who just wanted to go home, but because of restrictions and safety protocols, like that just wasn't possible. And certainly that's not a unique thing. We had like our brothers and sisters regionally here throughout the Micronesian islands, and they couldn't go back as well. But things are starting to get a little bit better, and we're seeing repatriation flights and things of that nature. I did want to ask though, what are, for people that may not be familiar with the specific services you provide, are there more common, elective procedures or different types of treatment or checkups and everything like that tend to be the most common with the local market?
Well, before at the height of the pandemic, even until lately, the only ones that were allowed to travel are actually those that would need urgent care, meaning they really need to do some diagnostics, they really need to do some interventions. So those were the ones that were allowed by the government, and that as actually supported by all the medical records that they send to Raquel, and Raquel now submits to the Department of Health for some quarantine immunity, so that they go straight to the hospital. But lately, because there have also been some clamor from the international patients about the executive checkup. The Philippines has really become one of the homes for executive checkups and annual exams. So
and it's fantastic work you guys do over there.
Yeah, so that is also being allowed by the government. Although from my last discussion with the Department of Health here in the Philippines recently, I think it's going to happen about in the next couple of weeks. But patients who want to come to the Philippines for their annual physical exam or annual checkup may already coordinate with us so that they can fly as soon as possible.
Okay. Now, Raquel, I would say probably and you know this being on Guam, but there are so many Guamanians who unfortunately probably have very good knowledge of the procedure when you travel, like for medical purposes and everything like that. How has that changed, like over the last year? And like what steps and what additional concerns do people who might need to go for medical treatment, like what do they need to know?
They just need to know how's the currently process that we have, because waiting for a medical treatment will take 4 to 6 weeks just to get their visa approval. They just need to be patient of the process, and then from there I'll collect all the requirements from them. I'll submit it to DOH for approval and IITF. Once it's approved, and then I'll call them because I will receive a notification that they're already approved. Then I'll call them to bring their passport with their 2x2 pictures and birth certificate. Then I'll submit it to consulate and then have them stamp for the visa. Then the following day I'll pick it up and then I'll return their passport. And then from there, I'll also give all the requirements to them before their travel. I'll guide them throughout until they come back to Guam. So they don't need to worry anything when they do their medical treatment to the Philippines.
So in summary, it literally is your job, Raquel, to make sure that you take care of like a lot of the logistics and make it so much easier for the patient. They don't have to make a million different phone calls and run papers all over the place and everything. But what they have to do is you just ask for their patients. It's kind of hard to be
Yeah,
patient when you are a patient, but I absolutely see that. So you're making it easier.
Yeah, less stress for them and also for the family member.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Jason. Sorry, Jason.
No, please,
I would
please.
just like to add. You're asking about the difference. The only difference is, of course, they're traveling during the pandemic. So one of the things that the government has required is number one, that they need to be fully vaccinated. So we are the ones validating that as well. And then when they come here in the Philippines, it's point to point. So they cannot leave the medical city. So from the airport, we pick them up and then go straight here at the medical city for COVID tests. And then during their stay here for the procedure, whatever, they cannot leave the hospital premises. And when they are bound to go back to Guam or wherever, it's going to be point to point again. So it's literally from airport to the hospital or the medical city, and then the medical city to the hospitals. But if they must need anything, because I know that our friends from Guam are very much familiar with all the things that they can buy here in the Philippines. We have personal shoppers here if they want. So while they're recuperating or while they are admitted in the hospital, they may just ask us, and we can actually buy it for them. So that's what's happening. That's what's
Okay.
happening.
So it is kind of like the bubble concept that I know a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of different international markets of saying, we're putting together these quarantine bubbles. They're all basically kind of like the same general idea. But that's very, very impressive that you guys have basically made it like, one-stop shopping for the patient so they can concentrate on seeing their physician, getting better, getting the help they need, and then hopefully come back.
That's correct, Jason.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, because as a global society, like things are getting a little bit better, even though there's a big concern, obviously, with the Delta variant going around. Are there any new services, Lawrence, because you deal with product and everything? Are there new services, new procedures, new treatments that if people here need to avail of, you guys are able to facilitate them?
So this used to be like an old service, but it's totally new because of all these things that we have to follow. So Raquel is always and our team here in the Philippines are always in tune with whatever guidelines that are set so that they come here in the Philippines. But when they come here, some of the things that they would also observe is that this hospital is operated in a 2-in-1 system. So I would always say to my friends that if there's one place that they will be very much comfortable going to, it's probably the hospital, because you would know which one is the clean side or the non-clean side, because we have here green zones and yellow zones. And we have very, very strict triaging system so that we know where the patient must go, whether the yellow zone or the green zone, yellow zone being the COVID zone. And there are other services. We have improved our executive checkup services. So that's coming out soon. And all other pretty much elective procedures that they need, they can just get in touch with us for that.
Okay. Well, final question, Raquel. We'd like to give the lady the final word, and just so people can make the process as quickly as possible, and they don't have to do redundant work, like you said, because you're going to take care of all of that. You said the process tends to take about 3 to 4 weeks, right?
3 to 4 weeks or so. It depends
Okay.
on the jurisdiction of Department of Health and the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Okay. Prior to coming to your office in Tamuning, what should a patient, or somebody just making a general inquiry, what kind of information should they provide to you to make the process go as smooth as possible?
They just need to always bring their medical records. If they have medical treatment, bring their medical referral.
What's that?
And
What's that?
so their passport copy. And also, I'll just prepare their LOI, which is the letter of intent for the patient. Then from there, I can already assist them.
Okay. Well, Lawrence and Raquel, we look forward to talking to you again. And thank you for doing all that you do, both for your countrymen in the Philippines and for people here that that are looking for other ways to get medical care. You know, you guys are really doing quality work, and we really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Okay, hey, come back on the show anytime, and you guys are doing fantastic work.
Thank you. Keep safe.
All right, you too.